Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you calling this meeting. I think Pakistan is in a very important place geographically and from a time standpoint, too. You know, in my career, I lived in Asia and worked a good bit in Pakistan, in Karachi and Lahore and Islamabad. My friends in Pakistan have been very concerned about the internal politics there for a long time and what's going on next door in Afghanistan. When I think of Pakistan today, I think of a couple things. One is the Pashtun instability between India and Pakistan, the nuclear capability, which scares me to death, frankly, given the anti-democratic ups and downs that you all three have talked about. I think of Afghan security and the Haqqani network and what Pakistan is not doing regarding that effort. And then Pakistan as a terrorist haven. And so when I look at, there are a couple of reports that have come out. October 2014, a Pentagon report was the first ever to claim that Pakistan uses Afghanistan-focused insurgents as proxy forces rather than allowing their presence by providing sanctuary and support. That's a damning report. Then in June of this year, in 2016, Pentagon issued a report on the stability and security in Afghanistan, noting that Pakistan's vital role in reducing the regional threat posed by terrorists and insurgents has not been sustained. Then, in August of this year, Pentagon announced it would not certify Pakistan's action against the Haqqani network as sufficient. What that means is that half of our aid over the next year, $300 million, will not be released, and it can't be waived by the president, as has been past practice. And so, all of a sudden now, we're in a situation where, quite frankly, it's a very confused situation between the U.S. and Afghanistan in terms of what we're trying to communicate. And my question is really more in line with, Dr. Markey, what you said in Foreign Policy article recently. It said many experts believe that the U.S. Aid is often worse than ineffective. It's positively counterproductive. I'd like you to expand on that, but I'd like the other two panelists to also help me with this issue right now of what is our objective with Pakistan in terms of the objectives we have of stabilizing Afghanistan. I'm very concerned about their lack of cooperation there. We have plenty of DOD information here in public documents and a lot more in classified documents that we know they're not participating, and that is a dangerous threat in Afghanistan. We know the Pashtun issue is it creates instability between India and Pakistan. You know, there are 200 million people in Pakistan, and the average age is 23. Their birth rate's very high. This is a potential hotbed for terrorism. So with all of those things bubbling around and our strategic interest in Afghanistan long term, Dr. Markey, would you start it? I'd like the three of you just to comment, though, if money is not the answer, and we all agree that engagement is still purposeful, wherein lies the answer in terms of how we do? I agree with a zero-based approach on the money, $19 billion, but only $8 billion of that has actually been to security efforts. About $11 billion has been humanitarian. So let's put it in perspective. It's not like this is a major battleground for us in terms of money, but on the other hand, I don't know what they're going to do given that we're cutting off 300 or half of the money, I guess, that we would normally be sending them this year. Dr. Markey.
Yeah. Very briefly, I would say my points about the potential counterproductive nature of U.S. assistance to Pakistan relate to observations by many Pakistanis that they don't see necessarily where the resources are going. And many Pakistanis who may be in the more liberal, cosmopolitan crowd often perceive that the money has supported the more repressive, anti-democratic forces in their country, and that this, they would say, has been happening over decades. So that's where the counterproductive aspects are. So what we need, I would say broadly, is a lot more clarity on precisely what our aims are. And for every dollar that flows from the United States to Pakistan, I would want to assign it a specific use, rather than, I would say what we have now is a much more muddled perception.
Would you agree that result versus use would be reasonable? That a specific result?
Yes.
As opposed to a specific.
What I would say, particularly on the security side, is that there should be three categories in the way we think about our assistance and the way that we condition it. Category one, things where they want and we want. It was said earlier that they want to fight the Pakistani Taliban, those who are threatening them. We want to fight the Pakistani Taliban. Conditions in that area would be relatively limited because we want the same thing. Category two, we and they want similar things, but they want to do it differently than we think is right. We have concerns about the way they treat civilians in war zones, things like that, maybe improve their counterinsurgency capabilities. We would want to focus our money there, use stricter conditions. Category 3, areas where we want to tell them what we think they should do and we believe they are not doing. We hold out resources as inducements with limited expectations that those things will change, but demonstrating that we are willing and eager to be partners with them, thereby not closing doors over the long run, but not delivering assistance for things that they don't do.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask your forbearance and just ask Mr. Grenier to respond to that quickly? I'm out of time, so I ask your brevity, please.
Senator, I very much agree with what Dan Markey has just said. And when I talk about sort of zero-basing everything, I think we need to look at our assistance to Pakistan in a very tactical way, in the same way that Dan has just described, so that we have clear common purposes to which we are going to put specific aid and plans for deliverables for what that aid is actually going to produce. Now, in some cases, particularly when you're talking about broad economic support, it's very difficult to point to a are so vast, and the importance of our addressing them jointly are so important, but it's very, very difficult to actually see measurable progress over a short period of time. That said, I think we have to get away from the pattern that we've been in for so many years, where we provide them with broad assistance, which is not accounted for in a very tactical way, and somehow expecting that we can use that as a tool, as a lever, to get them to change aspects of their behavior that, frankly, they simply are not going to change.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.